Again, both these players very much in top 8 contention. So this should be a nice one to see here as two of the SCG Tour's very best get squared off against each other at a round that certainly does matter.
I think Logan has to be very aggressive in trying to assemble the combo, because I think the backup plan, the value game, the flood the board with kitchen finks and other endurance threats, I think that's just going to be too slow and too easy for Thompson to break up. A lot of pressure on him to combo out.
Celestial Colonnade is where Thompson will start as round number 13 is underway here from Columbus for Logan. He will sacrifice Verdant Catacombs, figure out what land he wants to get as he falls down to 17, so it looks like it will be a duel, and it is a Temple Garden. Noble Hierarch, and now passing of the turn for Thompson. The old Talisman of Progress. Very nice.
I still don't think I could get all 5 talismans.
Oh, we did it yesterday.
Yeah, less than 24 hours ago.
Yeah, it was the green and white one that's still... okay, that Talisman of Unity. Bang, I remember. Okay.
I think that might have been the name I came up for.
No, that's definitely it. That's definitely it, because I have a pun in my head for it, so I know it's Talisman of Unity for green and white. Talisman of Dominance is blue-black. Talisman of Indulgence is red-black. And that darn red-green talisman.
Savagery?
That's
probably not
definitely not it. That's the worst guess I've ever seen. Hopefully we'll get a good look at the green-red talisman here in just a moment. We'll see. Of course, Impulse, a blue card. Makes perfect sense. For Gerry, an Oblivion Ring. Didn't expect to see that in there.
Oblivion Ring is a real sign of strength here for Thompson. Now, it's in the deck alongside Attention Sphere. It gives him some other gifts and given packages. If he's going after the mana creature, I assume that means he's just interested in slowing down Mize and maybe trying to pursue a gifts ungiven package for Elesh Norn alongside Burial Rites.
Verdant Catacombs, going to search up a Temple Garden here for Logan. Most notably there with the old Verdant Catacombs, electing not to search up like an Overgrown Tomb for black mana, which means he's got something here that requires a decent amount of white mana. This is a Spellskite. That'll resolve. Here comes Kitchen Finks for 3. Thompson will fall down to 17. The follow-up is a Birds of Paradise, and that'll be it for Mize. So we're going to head back Thompson's way. Thirst for Knowledge in hand, Thirst for Knowledge the draw step. Thompson will just pass the turn back with 4 mana available. Could be a Gifts Ungiven on the way. For Mize, the Floative Native, Abzan Company, a weapon of choice that he's so familiar with. Seen him make many deep runs with this deck. Nothing has really dissuaded him from playing it. Even when the Eldrazi were around, Abzan Company was still a good choice, and he played it then. Here comes Kitchen Finks. Thompson will fall down to 14. What will the follow-up be, assuming there even is one? Just going to pass the turn back, so now these players are a little bit of a standoff. This is Gifts Ungiven. We'll see if that will resolve or if Logan has a response.
And we might see the game be ending here before it even really got started.
I think perhaps old Elesh Norn on the way?
I would imagine.
I'm doing the check here because Logan built his company deck a little bit different than most people do. Path Exiles are in the sideboard, so that's worth noting. Now, I'm curious if he has some sort of graveyard removal card here.
He has the ability to Chord or Collected Company for Scavenging Ooze, but I don't think he has enough mana to do that right now.
Yeah, he could Chord for Scavenging Ooze, but not activate it.
Correct.
Yep.
He could also cast Collected Company and find the one Scavenging Ooze, but he still doesn't have the mana left over.
Yep. Now, he does have an out. He could Chord for a Fiend Hunter.
Okay.
That'll take care of Elesh Norn. So that's a way to do it.
Well, then you had to keep a Fiend Hunter in play for the...
Hey. I didn't say it would be easy. I just said it was an option. Because there's Burial Rites targeting Elesh Norn. I'm just presenting options here, my friend. Birds of Paradise is going to float a mana. And now maybe we see Collected Company? Okay. We see Chord. We see Chord for 2. Got something in mind, you have to imagine. So again, I'm curious to see what it's going to be. All right, Walverts.
Something that stays alive through Elesh Norn, just a way to get some mana.
Time to rebuild.
And now this gives him potentially a route to Quarter Collected Company for Fiend Hunter, and hope somehow that stays in play for 20 turns while he attacks for lethal.
He's got Spellskite defense.
Yep.
Take that. Takes 2 removal spells.
Or 1 Wrath of God.
Easy. Easy.
It's asking a lot.
Yeah,
it's not. I guess it's not technically impossible. It's asking a lot.
It is asking a lot. Right now, though, this kind of effect against Abzan Company, it's so creature laden. It's pretty good. That's for sure. All right, he's going to cord. It's for 3.
And here's the other problem. Even if he's able to get the Elishnorn off the table, it's not like he has anything going on. He has no combo pieces really to speak of. Very slow clock.
He has a 1-power creature.
Yep.
Have you considered
Gavity
that?
Township?
Yeah. Have you considered that? Put a +1/+1 counter on the old spell skite.
I had to imagine if Thompson was able to beat Burn 3 times, he can handle he can handle this kind of clock. Whatever, this is the only thing Mize can do.
Yeah, he has no choice.
There's no other option here.
Yeah. He'll play Noble Hierarch now as well.
If Thompson has Wrath of God or Supreme Verdict here, that might be enough to get a concession out of Mize.
Yeah. Well, there's Supreme Verdict right now, so I think that might do it. Gerry going to get his Elishnorn back. All Logan's creatures are dead. And I think he might be on a no-for.
Yeah, he's just packing it
and
up.
he'll concede the game as Gerry Thompson's going to win game number 1 here over Logan Mize. Blue-White Thopter Gifts very quickly up a game over Abzan Company. That shows you the power and the flexibility of this deck. It was not Thopter plus Sword that time. It was Gifts plus Unburial Rites, which is still a very potent combo.
Yes, and Mize with no creature removal really to speak of in the main deck. Not able to fight through that game 1, and very trivial for Thompson to defend himself long enough to set that up.
To the sideboards we go, and we will start with Logan Mize and his 4 Tide Hollow Scullers, 3 Path to Exile, 3 Abrupt Decay, an Aven Mind Sensor, a Farika, God of Affliction, a Quasali Pride Mage, a Corsair of Crufix, and a Linvala, Keeper of Silence.
So I can get behind the 4 copies of Tide Hollow Sculler as just a disruptive threat. I think it would be excessive to go to all 3 Path to Exiles, but I would want some out to Elishnorn. And I think the 1 copy of Aven Mind Sensor makes a lot of sense for this matchup too. Thompson searches his deck a lot, and Mind Sensor is disruptive there.
On the other side of things here for Gerry, you're going to find a lot of 2s and 1s. 2 Gutshot, 2 Dispel, 2 Elspeth, Sun's Champion, 2 Jace, Vryn's Prodigy, and then your 1-ofs of Hurkyl's Recall, Disenchant, Celestial Purge, Timely Reinforcements, Negate, Wrath of God, and Iona, Shield of Emeria.
I think if I'm Thompson, I'm looking, if not to get rid of the Sword Thopter setup altogether, at least de-emphasize it. I think he's got a lot of very good options to bring in. I think the 2 copies of Jace, Vryn's Prodigy are good in this matchup. Mize doesn't have a lot of creature removal. The additional copy of Wrath of God's very solid here. I think there's an argument for gut shots to slow down Mize's mana acceleration. That's a little narrow though. And I think this could be a solid matchup for Elspeth Sun's Champion. If Thompson's able to keep Mize off the combo and Mize has to play the beatdown value game, Elspeth might trump that as well.
Elspeth is very good at kind of negating that sort of game.
Yes, and then Thompson backing it up with Wrath of Gods and Elishnorn through Unburial Rites. That's asking a lot. That's a lot of angles of attack against Mize's deck.
Well, that gives you an idea of the options there for both players. Logan Mize will be on the play, and while they do sideboard and shuffle up, we'll talk about the StarCityGames.com newsletter. It is your source for Magic Gathering news, and it's free.
Best content for Star City Games cultivated by Cedric Phillips himself. You get the latest information about the SCG Tour with a selected match of the week, exclusive deck list and advice from many of your favorite Star City Games columnists, and a free exclusive cardboard crack comic. Best of all, signing up is free over at go.starcitygames.com/newsletter.
We'll learn a little bit more about these 2 players now while they do get ready to play game number 2. Logan Mize is where we will start. Though he is down a game, he is on the play this particular game. The Florida native, and we've talked about this so much when we do see him, which unfortunately is not a lot given where he lives, but when we get to see the member of Team Next Ridge Games, he's winning, man.
Yes, and Players Championship competitor, 7 open top 8s with an invitational top 8 as well. And somehow in this event also feels like he's kind of flying under the radar a little bit. A lot of the talk has been about Gerry Thompson and Todd Anderson trying to disrupt what the Players Championship field is going to look like, but Logan here is in striking distance as well.
And Next Ridge Games are kind of a team that's been built in the Florida area with Logan and Bradley Carpenter and a couple other players down there. And, you know, Carpenter did not have the tournament he wanted here. He's not going to qualify for the Players Championship this weekend, but I expect to see him at the end of the year. And, you know, why not say Logan can go back there as well? He's been there the first 2 years.
Especially with an invitational top 8 here, there's so many points at stake. So if you're looking to put together a resume for an invite later on in the year, at large bid at the end of the year, these invitational performances are worth a lot.
For Gerry Thompson, his resume kind of speaks for itself, and this might be another invitational top 8 on the way for him. That would be number 7, which is a lot of those, and potentially win number 3 in invitationals. He was the only person to have 2 invitational wins before Tom Ross came around a couple of years ago, but the resume is still very, very nice here for Thompson.
Stacked both on the SCG Tour and the Professional Tour, 20 Open top 8s, 5 Open wins, 6 Invitational top 8s, 2 Invitational wins. Just a really decorated Magic player, one of America's best.
You might have to update the graphics soon.
Getting close.
I think another Invitational top 8 might be on the way here, though. He does have to get through Logan Mize, which is no easy task. He is up a game, and the matchup does feel a little favorable.
There's just so many angles of attack here that Thompson has access to, and all of them are problematic for Mize. The sum of them, you know, it's Magic, anything can happen, but I think if Thompson's able to get reasonable hands, it's asking a lot of Mize to get through this matchup.
Yeah, of course, the question was kind of coming in is exactly where does Thopter plus Sword of the Meek fit? It looks like Thompson has found something that works. Talking to Nick Miller yesterday, he had said a lot of the big name players are playing Thopter Sword this weekend, but it looks like of them, Gerry Thompson doing the best with this strategy.
Yeah, and his deck is not, I mean, it is a Thopter Sword deck. That's part of it, and it does constitute 7 slots in the deck. But as we've seen in plenty of matchups, this one included, the combo there is not the only way he has to win the game. We've had him reanimate Ellis Norn to good effect. We've had him be able to reanimate Iona in post-board games to good effect. So the combo's there. It's a big part of what's going on, but it's not the only thing going on with Thompson's deck.
Mize is going to keep his opening hand. Looks like Thompson's going to send his back and take a look at 6 here in just a moment. Because his deck is a little all over the place, it feels like Thompson's deck would mulligan a decent amount.
There's some disjointed pieces, though I expect that to get cleaned up a lot in the post-board games because there's going to be elements of your deck that aren't really that efficient in every single matchup. But Thompson can also afford to, I think, mulligan pretty aggressively in this matchup because he's got so many cards that are worth multiple cards on Mize's side of the table.
Yeah, you know, when you're building this deck for a game 1 and for a pretty diverse metagame like Modern, especially where we don't know what to expect, you have to do a little bit of hedging, I think, in how you build your deck for game 1.
You also have a Gifts Ungiven shell, so that's an incentive to play one of this, one of that, to give an extra spread on what your Gifts Ungiven can look like.
It's a little all over the place, but as you said, things do change in those sideboarded games. He's able to sure things up. In a way, it almost feels kind of like a Jund deck or an Abzan deck where you hedge a bunch in game 1 and then you take out the bad cards, put in even better cards, and your matchups after sideboard get a lot better.
And I'm not an expert with this strategy, but I would imagine Sword of the Meek and Thopter Foundry has been reduced greatly in Thompson's deck. Mize has access, if he wants to a lot of different artifact removal spells. He can also combo out and beat the Thopter combo that way. Ellis Norn is really what Thompson wants, and I think he can use Wrath of God and Supreme Verdict to give him the time to get there.
We'll see how Mize can do against the game plan that Thompson is going to put together, as he'll start off with a Windswept Teeth. Thompson kept his 6 cards, scribed the top card to the bottom as we're underway here in game number 2. A Teleria West is where Thompson will start. Mize will sacrifice that Windswept Teeth, fall down to 19, and we'll see which Ravnica Shockland he wants to go get. It will be a Temple Garden. Mize will untap. He'll take a draw here for a second turn of the game. Looks like he picked up a Court of Calling. And now here is an Anafenza Kindred Spirit. So, one piece of the combo that happens to be pretty good on its own, as now here it looks like a Jace has showed up.
Not a surprise here for Thompson to bring these out of the sideboard, in my opinion. Mize's deck not very good at removing creatures, and an uncontested Jace, you know, been following standard for the last couple of years. You know what this means.
Yeah, and there are effect lands in this format, where there aren't in the current standard format where Jace is still being played. We're going to head Logan's way now. He'll start by attacking with Anafenza, it appears. Thompson, no interest in blocking, so he'll fall down to 17. For Mize, he'll sacrifice a Verdant Catacombs. Again, we'll see what land he wants to go get. And now here's an Eternal Witness. One of the things I've always liked about Logan's build of these Abzan Company decks is he's played a lot of copy of Eternal Witness. He always plays 4.
Well, Mize's deck and the way that he constructs his deck is also interesting to me because he has the combo elements, but we've seen him win plenty of times just by flooding the battlefield with creatures and using things like Gavany Township to overwhelm people. Eternal Witness fits into both game plans. It can just be a value attrition creature. It can also rebuy critical combo pieces like Court of Calling and Collected Company. So whichever path Mize is pursuing, Eternal Witness fits in pretty naturally.
For Thompson, a Glacial Fortress, and he'll pass the turn back over to Mize. Over to Logan we go. You see the Eternal Witness. It's got a counter on it from the bolster, so it's a 3-2, and an Anafenza is just a 2-2.
minutes. You may begin.
Now here's a Tide Hollow Sculler. 4 copies of that card in Logan's sideboard, and as much as we've watched him play Obzon Company, this is a new one.
I like this card a lot. I think this card is generally underrepresented in Modern, at least in sideboards, but this is a nice card to be able to collect a company and court into. It's generally disruptive. It puts a cheap creature on the battlefield, which helps with Court of Calling and Gavney Township down the line. Just makes a lot of sense to have this as your piece of disruption, rather than the more conventional Thoughtseize, Inquisition of Kozilek type cards we see out of black decks.
Thompson may have a response. Looks like he's going to Path and Offensive. This will allow Mize to go get himself a land. So he'll get a basic forest. And now Sculler will resolve. Metal and Mixture, Gifts Ungiven, Mystic Gate, Flooded Strand. That's the hand for Thompson.
I would expect Gifts Ungiven to be the selection here.
Seems like a relatively straightforward decision. It is possible that Logan is scared of Muddle the Mixture because he does have Court of Calling and Collected Company in his deck.
But in most scenarios, Gifts Ungiven is going to be a trump to whatever Court of Calling and Collected Company can generate. If he's following up with a spell this turn, I suppose is a question, but Gifts just seems way too dangerous of a card if Mize can't interact with the graveyard.
Gifts is the selection. Jace is going to go active. Thompson will draw, picked up a copy of a Talisman. That's the white-blue one of Progress. See what he wants to discard here. He'll discard the Talisman. The 3 damage will come across. Mize will play a Verdant Catacombs. And he'll simply pass the turn back over to Gerry. Gerry will untap, he'll draw. And hello, Gifts Ungiven.
Gifts Ungiven is a excellent draw for Thompson here, of course, especially if Mize doesn't know about it. But even still, I think that Mize would be up against it regardless. Muddle the Mixture cuts off the power cards of Collected Company and Court of Calling. He doesn't have that much of a clock going, and he knows that Thompson has access to just a lot of cards like Wrath of God and Supreme Verdict. It's very hard, I think, for Mize to get a lot of traction in this game. Gifts Ungiven, though, will speed up the process quite a bit.
I would agree. You see Thompson sacrificing the fetch land right away. He might just activate Jace right now and transform it into Telepath Unbound, or at least consider that to be an option.
There's an argument to go for it right now. In the event, if you feel like if you drew Wrath of God or Supreme Verdict, you would cast it right now over the Gifts Ungiven, there's an argument to activate Jace now and give yourself an opportunity to draw that card.
The Jace activation is on the stack, and it looks like Logan's going to make a move. He'll Path to Exile. Now, will Thompson fight back with Muddle the Mixture? That's the question.
I would be surprised. I think with a Gifts Ungiven now in the hand that he just drew, he can use Muddle to keep Mize off of a big payoff card and just gifts for Elesh Norn on Burial Rights and try to win the game that way.
Well, I'm curious because Logan's got quite a few cards in his hand. There's a realistic chance that he just says, you know what? I'm going to draw my card, I'll attack Gerry for 5, and I'll just pass with all this mana available. That if that's the case, will Gerry go for a Gifts Ungiven for the 2 cards on Burial Rights plus, or will he say, I need a value Gifts Ungiven to try to catch back up in this game?
Well, keep this in mind, too. Thompson now, because of the path, is up to 5 mana. He's just drawn land number 6. He can Gifts Ungiven, play land number 6, and have Unburial Rights with Muddle the Mixture backup.
Okay.
That's asking a lot for Mize to be able to answer that. It's only got so many copies of Path to Exile, and Court of Calling and Collecting Company don't do a whole lot in the face of Elesh Norn.
Logan will sacrifice that Verdant Catacombs, fall down to 15. We'll see what land he wants to grab.
And you see Thompson there discard the second copy of Muddle the Mixture. I think that's the route he's going to go for now. I think he's going to try to cast the gifts, play land number 6, Unburial Rights, and have Muddle to respond to whatever Mize may try to do.
And he's done a nice job of hiding the fact that he has another Muddle in hand by discarding the one that Logan knows about.
And on top of that, even if Mize has some way to power through Muddle plus Elesh Norn, just the act of getting Elesh Norn onto the battlefield gets the Tide Hollow Scholar off, and Thompson gets the Gifts Ungiven back for his trouble. That sets up another value Gifts in the worst case scenario.
Logan Mize with a red cap in hand. At least one chord, maybe two. Yep, two of them. See just exactly how he wants to tread here. He'll just attack with Tidehollow Sculler, a play I like a lot. This leaves him available to court for 3, court for 2 for Scavenging Ooze and activated. A lot of different options available here for Logan.
And I like that. Thompson not taking the bait there. By leaving back the Eternal Witness, Mize is suggesting I want to be able to court for Scavenging Ooze and activate it. So Thompson knows that he can't go for the gifts right now, but what he can do is pass the turn again. If Mize presents the same situation, he can then gifts with Muddle backup to stop the cord and then get Alice Norn into play.
Well, Logan is going to play Court of Calling right now, and it's going to be for 2. Now, to note, he's tapped his mana in a little bit of a strange fashion by leaving Godless Shrine available, but there's Muddle to make sure to take care of the court. So, Mize will untap, and now he will draw. And again, what we might see now, as Thompson has that 4 mana available, 2 cards in hand, Gifts Ungiven and Serum Visions, as it might be a value gifts the first go around.
If he's worried about Logan being able to cord for Scavenging Ooze and break up the Unburial Rites combo, he can go for value gifts.
Does he think that Logan has another cord in hand? Well, with the way that he's attacked, with just Tidehollow Sculler again, you have to think the answer is yes.
Right. Mize would really like a 6 mana, so at least he could keep up appearances. By leaving the Eternal Witness back, he's giving a lot of information to Thompson about exactly what he's planning to do in response to a Gifts Ungiven. But Mize can't afford to put the shields down.
No, not at all.
So until he draws land number 6, he's forced into holding the Eternal Witness back.
Yeah. Viscerous here.
And this is a freebie from the perspective of Court of Calling. Because he casts this, if it resolves, it's a mana in play, essentially to cast a Convoke card. He can still have the mana up to potentially Scavenging Ooze away and Alice Norn.
It's Gifts Ungiven. Now again, with the way that Logan has played his turn, it's a very loud declaration of I have Court of Calling in hand.
Yes.
And I think that Gerry is smart enough to see that. So I'm curious to see what route he's going to go with the Gifts Ungiven. Maybe he feels like my hand is forced and I have to get Unburial Rites plus Alice Norn, or maybe he feels like it's time to go to Value Town with my Gifts Ungiven, and you see him already reaching for Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, I think it's going to be something like Supreme Verdict, Wrath of God, another copy of Gifts Ungiven, and Path to Exile or some other spot removal spell.
It's been a long time since we've seen kind of Gifts Ungiven piles. You know, you think of Kamigawa Block many moons ago where stuff like this happened, and we've seen it in Extended before. But typically we see Gifts Ungiven in Modern getting Unburial Rites plus a large creature to reanimate. That's it.
And if Thompson feels like he can afford to tap out here, if he's not worried about the combo, he could even go get Elspeth Sun's Champion if that card is in his deck.
Mm-hmm. Well, here are the cards. We'll see if we can get a better look at them. But I see a Path to Exile, a Supreme Verdict, and a couple other ones there.
Yeah, it looks like Path, Gifts Ungiven, Wrath of God, Supreme Verdict.
So you think about all the great 4-mana instant blue spells that draw cards in Magic's history, Factor Fiction, of course, and a bevy of others. And Gifts Ungiven for a while was deemed to be the best one. It's kind of fallen off a little bit, but maybe this is the kind of deck that brings it back.
Well, it's kind of getting the best of both worlds with Gifts Ungiven. You have the busted gifts for 2 cards that I want to put in my graveyard, and you have a lot of tools to make the juicy go get 4 powerful cards and force you to give me 2 of them.
Thompson picked up a Path to Exile and a Dispel here, just so that you're aware. And now, while Logan can, he'll play Court.
That's a really savvy gifts there from Thompson. Mize can't give him the Wrath, so that's off the table. Dispel plus Path hopefully gives you a route to be able to take care of the Sculler, gifts again for the combo, and Dispel to stop an instant speed Scavenging Ooze.
But this is a smart play here from Logan, because while Gerry's shields are down, he will Court of Calling, doesn't have to worry about Dispel. And you're wondering what was he going to get. Maybe it's Scavenging Ooze time, maybe Inoffensive to work your way towards the combo. He says, I'll play Tidehollow Sculler, which he has 4 of in the sideboard, second one played this game. Take the Path to Exile, and keep my advantage. Now, right now, Logan with 8 points of damage on the table.
Yeah, 1 point short, and very exposed to Wrath of God.
2 scries here from Thompson. Serum Vision's picked up a Hallowed Fountain. These cards are headed to the bottom. Serum Vision's done resolving. Is it time to thirst now, or do you wait? Looks like the answer is right now. So Thompson will cast Thirst for Knowledge right now.
I think he might have just picked up Detention Sphere.
That'll play. Good for the Gifts Ungiven package, but also just good on its own.
Yeah, a lot of the cards kind of fit that bill. Engineered Explosives is another one. Fine as just a one of for your control deck, and also something valuable to be able to gift for alongside, say, Supreme Verdict and Wrath of God to clean up certain battlefields.
Also pretty nice when you have Thirst for Knowledge in your deck.
Yeah.
Can't forget about that as well. A couple of cards will be discarded. Here's a land for Thompson. And now it's Detention Sphere. And he will target Tide Hollow Sculler. Now keep in mind, little surprised to see that.
Well, not if Mize has a way to blow up the Detention Sphere.
Okay. Yes,
he could have sacrificed a Viscera Seer in response, but if he has a way to answer the Detention Sphere, it's much better doing it this way.
Okay. The way that he kind of reached for his permanence, I think he realized that that was a thing that could happen. But as you said, if he has the way to blow up Detention Sphere, which he does, he has Abrupt Decay in hand.
Makes way more sense.
It makes way more sense. Yes, it does.
And in fact, if he can do it at instant speed, there's something to be said for doing it in the draw step.
I kind of like doing it now. You see Thirst, Gifts, and Path. I think maybe you leave him with Thirst.
I think you leave him with Gifts if you're presenting lethal. I think both Path and Thirst give him the best route to find Wrath of God.
Okay.
Whereas the Gifts Ungiven doesn't generate Wrath of God, certainly this turn.
No guarantee at all.
And if your plan is, I think Mize's best plan here is just take the cheap spells that are disruptive or can lead to Wrath of God, hope that Thompson bricks on one draw step, and you just attack for lethal.
Feels as though Path is the easy selection, though. Potentially. This is not an easy decision.
There's arguments for all these cards.
Yeah.
The question is, does Path give Thompson another turn? If the answer is no, you leave him with that, take Gifts Ungiven and Thirst for Knowledge. If you think it appreciably changes your clock, or has the potential to based on Thompson's draw step, you probably take that and Thirst and leave him with Gifts. If I'm in Mize's position, I'm saying I'm probably dead to Wrath of God or Supreme Verdict off the top regardless. What cuts off the most outs?
Well, he feels like right now it's Path and Gifts. So those are the selections.
I would really, with Thompson on 7 mana, I would really want to take Thirst for Knowledge out of that hand. That's a lot of looks.
Mize will sacrifice Horizon Canopy. Time to draw a card. Again, remember, he has Linvala in hand, as now he's attacking for 4. Thompson's going to fall down to 5. Thompson is facing lethal next turn at the Swamp, and pass that turn back over to Logan Mize. Actually, Mize had already played a land for the turn, so Supreme Verdict was the draw, and Supreme Verdict is a beating.
All right, well, all of our analysis over those Tide Hollow Scullers was for naught.
That's true.
I still would not have left Thirst in the hand, but it was cooperative for Thompson there to have it right on the top.
There will be some scrying now here from Logan Mize, as he is going to lose his creatures, but he can at least control his draw step a little bit. He's thinking about keeping the card on top.
And now Thompson's really loading up. I mean, he gets a Gifts back, a Path back, still has Thirst for Knowledge in hand. Mize with no battlefield to speak of, very few cards in hand.
And the rest of the creatures are gone, so Logan's going to keep the top card on top. Path Exile, Gifts Ungiven back in Thompson's hand, along with that Thirst for Knowledge that we already know about. So Logan knows Thompson's entire hand. The question is, can he beat it, as he does on tap, and he will take a draw. Curious to see what he left on top. Didn't get a great look at it. Might be an Eternal Witness.
I think Mize needs to leave his high-impact cards on top and send everything back to the bottom. I think if it's not Eternal Witness or Collected Company, I think even at this stage, Court of Calling is dubious because Mize has no battlefield to get the ball rolling on a big chord.
Yeah, he did leave Eternal Witness on top, so that is the draw. And now the question is, what is he going to pick back up? There's a Witness. Sculler is a somewhat attractive option, but your opponent has Path to Exile in hand. It's a clean answer here for Thompson.
keep in mind that Thompson is threatening Thirst, pick up an 8th mana source, untap, Gifts, and get Elesh Norn all in one shot.
Didn't get a great look at what Logan returned there, so hopefully we can find out for you at home. Well, we know he's got Linvala. Now, Thirst might be coming for Thompson, maybe not. And it looks like Mize brought back Path to Exile, so he wants to give himself a little bit of insurance around Elesh Norn.
But Thompson, I think, now has the tools where he doesn't have to just go for it. In fact, he can just path the Eternal Witness, pass, just keep playing the blue-white control game.
Well, Thompson picked up a copy of Dispel as well. And Dispel does a nice job against the Path to Exile plan. As we head back Mize's way. Here comes an attack. I guess it's fair to keep in mind that Gerry is at 5, now 3. I guess we forgot about that aspect of the game. The whole not a lot of life to work with part.
Yep. Though Mize's only burn in the deck, I think, is Murderous Red Cap. Thompson can afford to be a little liberal with his life total.
He does have 1 red cap. For Logan. See what he's thinking. He's thinking Linvala. Linvala will play here a little, though I think, yeah, Thompson does have a Path to Exile in hand, so he does have an answer. That's in. I think now is where we see the gifts.
But Thompson here has, I think, a clean path to Elesh Norn here. If he wants to, he can path the Linvala.
Which he will.
Now Gifts with Dispel back up. Funny that he has to path Linvala there simply because it has a point of power left over once Linvala.
It's got to be gone. Yeah, once Elesh Norn's out there, yep, you need Linvala to be gone.
Attack you to 2, attack you to 1. He's still got to answer that.
So now it's time for Gerry to Gifts. And it looks like the cards he's brought forward first are Elesh Norn plus Unburial Rites.
What's interesting here is Thompson can kind of go for a value Gifts here, I think, because he can just hard cast Elesh Norn.
So we're thinking maybe Elesh Norn and Unburial Rites stop her sword?
Sure. Or Elspeth, Wrath of God, or whatever.
Sure.
I guess he wants to make sure he can do everything with Dispel back up, and he doesn't have 8 mana yet.
Okay.
So it's funny that we got to a spot where we could see value Gifts involving Elesh Norn potentially. But
absolutely.
Thompson just going for a safer route.
All right, to Gerry. Thopter Foundry the draw.
I guess you can't value Gifts because you can put Elesh Norn in the graveyard and Burial Rites into the hand, and Thompson does not have black mana.
Not just yet.
Yeah, there is 1 Watery Grave in the deck, though. Thompson has thought of this scenario for sure.
Here is Elesh Norn. And now Thopter Foundry.
Well, that's a combo.
Yeah,
3 3s.
Oh, yes, it is. Look at you. Looks as though Logan is going to activate Horizon Canopy to draw a card. Remember, Logan has Path to Exile in hand. Gerry knows that. Logan knows that. Everyone at home knows that. Is now Logan's going to take a look at the old graveyard here to see what Thompson's working with. No Sword of the Meek yet. Logan going to go for the path. Thompson will dispel it. But this one's not over yet. Logan's got a lot of life to work with and a couple of draw steps here.
Some paths left in the deck and ways to get path out of his graveyard.
Not over by a long shot. Again, this is part of the reason I've always liked Logan's build of the deck is that he loves Eternal Witness. Gets to use his graveyard as a resource. And in a situation like this, he has a Court of Calling in hand, and assuming the mana lines up, he could Chord for Eternal Witness, get path back, take care of Elesh Norn. Problem solved.
That problem is solved. A larger problem is that Mize is just out of resources. I mean, he's been attritioned out of this game. So yes, he can get Elesh Norn out, and then you're playing draw step to draw step. But Thompson's deck, on average, yields a more powerful card than Mize's does.
Well, here is Chord. And here's Eternal Witness. Get back a path, and now path that. Now, Eternal Witness dies, of course, because of Elesh Norn, giving everything -2/-2. So you Chord for it, enters the battlefield. It has no power and toughness, of course, because of Elesh Norn. But you do get your trigger, which means you get back that Path to Exile, path that Elesh Norn. Now Thompson is searching up a land. So that problem is solved for the rest of the game.
Yes.
No more Elesh Norn nonsense. Both these players shuffle and present their decks to each other. And now we head back Gerry Thompson's way. He'll untap and draw. He'll pass the turn back. Perhaps we're in store for a little draw go here as Logan will draw a card. I was just kidding. It's a Kitchen Finks.
That is a lethal attack.
Yes, it is. And so is that Kitchen Finks. Well, Logan Mize is going to gain a bunch of life now. Gerry Thompson needs to find a Sword of the Meek. And he has an Oblivion Ring to take care of that one. Mize will draw a Qasali Pride Mage, though it's going to be...
Yeah, he can shatter the blocker and get an Exalted Trigger.
Yeah, he should. He's got to sequence this right.
Yes.
Because Logan kind of shortcutted it. Okay, yeah,
right.
Gerry says, you got to make sure you do this right, because if not, I'll be okay. Logan does shatter the blocker. He gets an Exalted Trigger from the Qasali Pride Mage as Gerry goes up to 4. And so it's a 4-3 Kitchen Finks, and that's going to do it. So Logan Mize going to tie things up here against Gerry Thompson. Abzan Company fighting back against this blue-white Thopter Gifts deck.
And the Tide Hollow Scholars feel like really significant sideboard card from Mize's side here, as it's both pressure and disruption, and those are things that he's kind of absent of game one in this matchup.
Yeah, you know, the fact that he has access to all these paths, he's Abrupt Decays, he's Tide Hollow Scholars, and heck, you know, even Freaking God of Affliction could play a role here. It can really go after the graveyard pretty well.
Yeah, there's a lot of angles of attack here, and Mize gets to cut some of the creatures that are dedicated more for beatdown matchups, cards that don't survive it well against sweepers. He can just get that stuff out of the deck.
Well, these players will shuffle up here for game number 3, I imagine, pretty quickly. As you see the clock, they're running 14 minutes, and this is a pretty lengthy matchup as we're actually kind of watching two mid-range / control decks do battle. So we'll see if they'll have enough time to finish. In the meantime, we will talk about the Star City Games YouTube page, where we've got almost 100,000 subscribers now, Patrick.
A lot of content on the page, including Versus Series videos, premium archives, SCG Tour archives, and content that's exclusive to the YouTube page, such as unboxings. You can become a subscriber for free right now at youtube.com/StarCityGames and get notified when new content is uploaded to the page.
The replays of this match and all of them here from the Columbus Invitational will be on our YouTube page, and this match thus far has been a lot of fun to watch because we get to see a very innovative deck here from Gerry Thompson in blue-white Thopter Gifts. I'm glad to see Gifts Ungiven being cast again, I must say.
It would be nice for a little bit of the breathing room for some of the powerful blue cards in the format to have a home. I know that Magic has a long history, especially if you go back to standard formats 10, 11 years ago, of the blue card drawers and the blue attrition cards just being the best thing going on. And I can appreciate R&D initially with Modern taking the stance of Ancestral Vision is banned, and we're going to make sure that generic blue cards are not the best thing going on like it's been in a lot of standard formats past. But I think Modern is fast enough and robust enough that cards like Ancestral Vision and Gifts Ungiven are in play. They should be in bounds for what's permissible for the format. And so people who want to have that experience of playing a slower, more fidgety game can have their enjoyment the same way that combo players and beatdown players and so forth can also find decks for themselves in Modern.
No, I mean, I like both these decks in Modern.
Yeah.
I think they're both good. You know, the removal of Birthing Pod, I think, is a good idea. I think it's a little out of bounds.
It's hard to feel like when you lose to either one of these decks that you didn't get an opportunity to play Magic.
Yeah.
Even if Thompson locks you out of the game with Elish Norn, first of all, your deck's probably constructed in such a way that you can't really answer Elish Norn. And second, that's turn 4 at the earliest.
Yeah, turn 4 or turn 5.
Talisman into Gifts into, you know, that's
Unbear
a lot of
Rush,
time for you to do your thing, whatever your thing is. And Logan's deck, first couple turns of the game are just playing Mana Accelerators and some low-impact creatures, you know. He does have a combo kill of his own, but I would not feel cheated if I lost to either one of these decks.
Well, you got to play. You got to interact.
Definitely got your 4 turns or whatever R&D says Modern's supposed to be like.
Yep. Both these players will take a look at their openers. Thompson will very quickly mulligan. We'll see if Logan is going to keep his hand or not. Again, Logan Mize has been playing this Abzan Company deck for some time now, at least a year, probably more than that. And we've seen him have so much success with this style of deck. He's so comfortable here, and he builds it his own way. Again, with all these copies of Eternal Witness, a lot of Abrupt Decays and Path to Exiles in the sideboard. But the addition of Tide Hollow Scholar this weekend in the sideboard, 4 copies, very notable.
Especially with Court of Calling and Collect Company, being able to access that kind of creature at instant speed.
Yeah.
Discard in the draw step, one of Magic's most frustrating mechanics.
Yes, it is.
Even in Alpha, they discovered that Disrupting Scepter should be sorcery speed. You know, and there's some not great development going on in Alpha, but they realized how frustrating instant speed discard can be.
Perhaps you should be able to get your draw step and play with it.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Draw step, hold on.
Yeah.
Discard your land, please. And your turn, I'll activate Jam Day Tomb. Let's keep doing this until you've had enough.
An island here for Thompson as he does keep his 6 cards. For Mize, it's a godless shrine that enters the battlefield tapped. We'll go Gerry's way with an Academy Ruins. Notable that is the second land of the game, though you do see another island in his hand. A Verdant Catacombs here from Mize, he'll sacrifice that. And now here's Tide Hollow Sculler. And Thompson will show his hand. Thirst for Knowledge, Engineer Explosive, Gifts Ungiven, and an Oblivion Ring.
Thompson's hand here is sketchy enough that my instinct would be to take Thirst for Knowledge.
Okay.
You know, without access to white mana, Oblivion Ring, Engineer Explosives, they're pretty low impact. And if he doesn't have white mana, you don't really have to worry about Gifts Ungiven either, because Gifts can only get sweepers or the ability to get Elesh Norn on the battlefield. And all that requires white mana too.
Well, Thirst for Knowledge is a selection, so now we head back Gerry Thompson's way. He'll draw. An island. See if anything else comes, and the answer is no. So back over to Logan Mize. He'll untap and he'll draw. It's this ragtag bunch of creatures that Mize has been playing with for so long as Sculler comes into the red zone. Now, no Tarmogoyfs here.
No.
Playing green, don't need any Tarmogoyfs.
Mize's deck is not really in the market for creatures that just attack and block. Everything's got to have a power, some utility, some part of a greater scheme.
Much like Courser of Crewfix.
Or that. guess it can be that.
Kitchen Finks is the top card of the deck. A Jace here from Thompson. All you can do is pass the turn back. So Logan will untap. He's going to build small incremental advantages, ideally, as Farika, God of Affliction, is on top of the deck now.
We're having a flashback to 18 months ago right now.
We sure are. Logan with a big smile on his face as he's trying to get his deck online. There is an Abrupt Decay. See you later, Jace. A land here in Horizon Canopy will gain Logan a life.
We got like Erebos, God of the Dead, or
maybe a Pack Rat.
Nyleo would be pretty good here. He's almost got he's getting his devotion requirement up.
He is. An attack for 4 is going to bring Thompson down to 14. He really needs a white source of mana right now. He found a Watery Grave. That's at least land number 4 for Gifts Ungiven number 1. But Thompson is in some trouble right now. Getting beaten down, and Mize is starting to gain some incremental advantages, and we haven't even gotten a good look at his hand yet. You have to imagine there's something going on in there that he likes. One thing that Thompson does have the opportunity to do, however, is play that Watery Grave untapped, pay 2 life, and play Engineer Explosives for 2, which can take care of the Tide Hollow Sculler and get that Thirst for Knowledge back.
Although Thompson now at 12, and he would take a hit from the Courser down to 10, and Mize still has a handful of cards.
Farika the draw, top card, Court of Calling. Worth noting that Mize does have a copy of Path to Exile in hand. And we already know about the Kitchen Finks because of last turn, so he'll start by attacking here. Thompson's going to fall down to 8. See what's next here for Logan. Looks like he might be thinking Kitchen Finks. And he is. That's good. He's up to 20. Another threat on the battlefield here to pressure Thompson's life total.
And there's a lot of value here on Mize's side to try to get Thompson down to 1 next turn. He's not presenting lethal, but if you get Thompson down to 1, then he can't crack fetch lands for the rest of the game, and cobbling together the white mana he needs becomes an even greater challenge.
Well, Thompson's going gifting now. The question is, what does he want to search up and let Logan choose from? Glacial Fortress is one of the first cards he brought. It might be a thing where he's saying, I need white mana real bad.
I suppose he can go get, Mystic Gate, Glacial Fortress, Basic Plains.
And Flooded Strand.
Yeah.
That'll solve those white mana issues. Mystic Gate's the first one Logan, I think, is saying that's going in the graveyard.
Yeah, don't want to give him double white next turn.
Yep.
That one you cannot let Thompson have.
You can have a Plains. I don't mind that. And I think I like giving him Flooded Strand to make him pay for his land.
Yeah. Make him take the point of damage, especially with Thompson at 8 and potentially going to 7, down to 1 next turn from the 7-point attack.
All right, white mana are the gifts that have been given. A Talisman, which is another painful source of mana. There's the Plains. Here's Engineer Explosives. It's for 3. Pass that turn back. Looking to slow down the Courser and the Kitchen Finks as quarters the draw. Eternal Witness on top of the deck. Mize going to shrug those shoulders, get in with these creatures. Engineer Explosives will go kaboom. Courser, Kitchen Finks down. You'll get a Persist trigger. Mize will gain a little bit more life. And Thompson will lose some, thanks to the Sculler. He'll fall down to 6. For Logan, again, he does have a Tide Hollow Sculler in hand. Court of Calling as well. So it's interesting.
I think Mize is doing his best here to make sure that Supreme Verdict or Wrath off the top doesn't blow him up. He can just pass the turn, which protects him against the sweeper, and he has a cord left over in case Thompson doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm. Serum Visions, draw a card, scry, all that jazz. Elspeth in hand. That's interesting.
I mean, that is a card that can definitely punish Mize if he takes too slow and plodding of a pace here, assuming that he's got the game locked up, barring a sweeper.
Let's see what this is. Now, Thompson has Path. He might be able to get another turn out of this. Gonna be tough, but he might be able to. And yeah, if he paces the game too slowly, playing around Wrath, Elspeth is the one that comes down and says, big mistake.
Yes. But there are ways for Logan to get the game inside of range, even through Elspeth. If he can get Thompson down to 2, suddenly if he can find Murderous Redcap, that's a kill. If he has the ability to even tutor for even Mind Sensor, that becomes something that can fly over the top of Elspeth for the last 2 points as well.
Sculler comes down. Thirst is going to go back to the grip here for Thompson.
That's a very painful path there for Thompson because Mize has obviously been choked on mana for a bunch of turns here, but if Mize is presenting lethal, Thompson doesn't have a choice.
So that Sculler's discard effect is still on the stack, or at least, excuse me, taking a card from Thompson. We'll see if it will resolve or if Gerry wants to cast Thirst for Knowledge in response. He does not, so he'll show the hand of Oblivion Ring. A Thirst, an Elspeth, and a Talisman. And Logan with a little bit of a smile. What else you got in this bag of tricks? Wasn't expecting Elspeth Sun's Champion.
Farika. We've seen Courser Crufix.
Looking to see Whip of Erebos soon.
Yep.
Elspeth Sun's Champion bites the dust, at least for now. Looks like Mize is heading into the red zone. It's an attack for 4. Thompson's going to fall down to 2. And now Logan will just pass the turn back. Thompson will sacrifice that Flutter Strand. He's down to 1. Fetch lands are not going to be particularly useful moving forward as he searches up a basic Plains. We will see Thirst for Knowledge. That will resolve. 3 cards on the way. Among them, Gifts Ungiven. Goodbye, Talisman. Thompson's going to need a good one here. There are a lot of good ones to draw. He's drawing a card. It's a Mystic Gate. Can he weasel his way out of this situation?
Well, Mize being stuck on land, you pathing him up to 5 mana, and him saying go is not a good sign.
No, I wouldn't be happy about that either.
I think answering the board here for Thompson is going to be enough of a struggle, and I'm assuming Mize has got more to play with than just the board.
Yeah, Eclectic Company kind of answers that question. Thompson's got something to do. I don't know what, though. All right, Gifts Ungiven. What can he search for now? That's awesome.
I guess he has Dispel, Negate, and Muddle that he can Gifts for, so Mize has to give him a counter spell. I still don't know if that's enough to beat the board, though.
Yeah, me either. Again, he's at 1. Maybe he needs Collected Company to whiff.
Sure.
2 birds. Supreme Verdict, Path to Exile in there. I got to imagine Snapcaster's in there. And then something else is high now.
This feels like Thompson is trying to set up Gifts where he needs Logan to miss on the Collected Company and to mess up this pile somehow.
Yep. Dispel, Supreme Verdict are the cards that are given. He will Dispel. Pass a turn back. It's turn number 1 of extra turns. Mize will draw. He'll assess some things, and I think we might see the old shoulder shrug attack. We'll see. Well, it's one of those. Here they come, and that is going to do it. Logan Mize is going to win this match here over Gerry Thompson, 2-1. Abzan Company able to take down the sideboard at games against the Blue-White Thopter Gifts. And though a lot of the attention has been on Andrew Tenjum, Joe Lissette, Jeff Hoagland, and Gerry Thompson this weekend, we cannot forget about the Florida native and Logan Mize, who is 12-1 here in Columbus.